Oh, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
Oh, we are shorthanded today. Steve is working, and Dennis has got the flu, and Bill is just away from the screen for a second. He'll be back. Um, anyway, I don't know what we're going to talk about today. We can talk about the earthquake we had here in Oklahoma last night, but I don't know if anybody else felt that around here. But we'll go through. Do you want to go through chat, Jerry?
Sure.
Can you see it well enough?
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead and tell us who's
You got JD, Grandpa Rails, Allie, Gerald Stewart, Rob T-Man, Jonathan Zillow, Mom and Son Trains, Lynn McCurdy, Steve 87, PSAP. He finally made it on time. Hot Dog Pilot Andy. Digger Evans, DES Dave, Media Productions, Hi over there at H&H Express, Curly, Dwight Curly, just going through the list here.
Kyle Stevens.
Kyle Stevens, Al Moore.
Bernard's here. I'm feeling better, Bernard.
Mark, CB&Q, right? Is that Mark? CB&Q?
Yep. Uh-huh. Mark Pruitt.
Mark Pruitt. Thomas Moore. Bernard C. Ooh.
Mike McCardle's here.
Michael
Sparky's here.
McCardle.
Good to see you, Sparky.
Sparky. I got it. Wilmer.
Ray Burleson's here too. Good morning.
Wilmer.
Uncle
Indian Head Valley. Uncle Wilmer. Ray.
Well, the rule is they don't get here soon enough. They don't get their name called. So
Randy Doman.
Right. Randy Doman. Good morning. That's a new name. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen it before. Dwayne from Dwayne's Fork and Spoon. I saw Mike from Deep Run Railroad, and I think we're called up. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Good size.
Yeah.
I was just telling. I'd already told Jerry, but we had a 5.1 earthquake last night about 11:30.
Ooh.
And it was really strange because I had just gotten in bed, and it starts. I hear this noise, and it sounded like wind, like from a storm. You know, when you get a cold front come through and it gives you that first little push of wind. I thought that's what it was. And then the headboard started shaking. And I thought, no, that's not an earthquake. I thought maybe it was an explosion somewhere, you know. And it was a sonic boom because it was very short. It was about 8-10 seconds long, but it shook pretty good. So it was interesting. We don't get very many of those around here. But it was right over by about an hour this side of Oklahoma City, so right in the middle of the state. And I know they felt it in Kansas City and Arkansas. And I don't know if anybody down in Texas felt that last night. If you did, pop it in the chat. But it was kind of strange because we just don't get them very often here.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about it, actually. Otherwise, I would have probably been reading about it this morning. But is that in the area where a lot of oil production?
Well, yeah, you know, it was down by Prague, which has had oil production. I don't know. My wife would know more since she was in the business. The ones that we used to get all the time, I was telling Jerry, were up around Guthrie, which is north of Oklahoma City. And that's where they did a lot of fracking.
Yeah.
And they would get a lot of small ones every day there. But we would never feel those here. This is only the second one that I've ever felt. And I've been here since 71. The last one was in 2011. And it was a 4 something, but this one was a 5.1, and it was only 3 miles deep. So it was a pretty good shaker. Luckily, it only lasted a short while. It wasn't a long one. But,
yeah.
But I could just envision my pool doing shaking and sloshing water. I don't think it went long enough to get that happening, but
Be like this movie where you're in bed and the bed's shaking and moving across the floor.
Well, it didn't move. It didn't move the bed, but it did. The headboards definitely went like this. Because when it started doing that, I said, "Well, that's not the wind. The wind doesn't shake the headboard." But anyway, it's and of course then Facebook, the neighborhood Facebook just lit up, and everybody's going, "You feel that? You feel that?" You have to be sound asleep to not feel it. So
yeah,
anyway,
I don't think I've ever been in an earthquake. I've always lived in areas that seem to not necessarily have them, but one of these days I'm sure I'll feel one.
Yeah. Well, the first one I was in, my wife and I, but just before we got married, had gone out to San Francisco to see my sister get married, and we took a little day tour up to the giant redwoods and stuff north of San Francisco, and they had a 4.5 or something, but we were in the car, so didn't feel it. And they're talking about it on the radio and all that stuff, but we didn't even know it happened. So the first one I felt was back in 2011, and then this one last night. It's only two I've been in. I was born in California, but I don't ever remember them as a kid out there. Southern California, we never had them, or at least not up in the desert where I was.
Yeah.
But anyway, so good morning, guys. I'm feeling much better. Dennis is under the weather with the flu, and Steve's driving a bus. In fact, there's Steve right there. He just finished his pre-trip, and his pickup is delayed a bit. Well, good morning, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Anyway, and I'm not going to say anything. Did I see Mike McCarville in here earlier? Yes, I did. I had talked to Mike about something, maybe doing something on the show, so hopefully that will come to fruition. But we'll talk about that later down the road. But I don't know what we're going to talk about today. I don't have anything planned, but because usually we don't have to plan anything. We got enough people on here that we'll always have something. But
Our studio audience can throw out topics.
Yeah. I've actually gotten some more. Thank you, Mike. I actually have gotten some more work done on the layout. My son's here this weekend, so I'm going to get the last section put up on the top level so I can get it all hooked together and bolted to the ceiling and all that good stuff, and then I can start landscaping up there on that deck. But
you're going to bolt
off the bridge coming over the chasm and onto that new deck side. So
nice.
You're bolting this thing to the ceiling?
Say again?
You're bolting it to the ceiling.
Oh yeah, I'm going to suspend the biggest part of it's going to have two rods going up the ceiling. So it was either brace it from underneath and then it's in the way underneath, or brace it from the ceiling. So I'm going to brace it. I'm just going to use a couple pieces of all thread rod, drop it down, and I'll have a piece of angle iron going underneath that farthest edge out, and it's just support it that way. And of course, then it's also hooked to the wall. So there should be plenty of support for it with minimal structure. Say again?
Sounds like a big undertaking.
Man, it shouldn't be too bad. The attic access is right there next to the layout. So, in fact, I originally had to move it because the layout is actually right underneath the original access to the attic. But so I put in a pull down stair over where it wasn't going to be in the way. So it should be pretty easy to do.
Are you building it earthquake proof?
I didn't even think about the layout last night. I don't think there was anything. I haven't been up there this morning. I don't think there was anything standing anywhere that would have fallen over. Maybe my cordless drill or something, but it just didn't shake long enough, I don't think, to get anything really rocking enough that it was going to fall over. It was a pretty hard shake, but it was very quick, much quicker than it did back in 2011. And I don't know if that's because it was shallow. Is that what happens with them when they're shallow, Bill? Do you know?
It all depends upon the bedrock depth of the epicenter of where the rock cracks and displaces. So a lot of variables into it.
Yeah.
5.1 is fairly robust.
Yeah.
So, you're going to get that sort of bam with it.
Yeah,
Is that
that's what it was. It hit pretty quick, pretty not violent, but compared to nothing happening, it was pretty violent. But it didn't last very long, which was good. Because I remember the one that happened back in 2011. I was sitting in my office desk in our old house, which was a wood floor house, and it started, and it was just a low rumble, and I thought a big truck was coming down the road. That's what it sounded like. And then the house started shaking a little bit. I'm going, well, that's not a truck. It's got to be an earthquake, which, we had never felt up until that point. But tell us about watching anything.
Is 3 miles down deep? Is it like, what do they normally happen at?
Well, this one was 3.2 miles deep, but a lot of them I know, like especially out in the ocean, are real deep. And I don't think they count the depth of the water in that. I think they're going just the surface of the earth.
Earthquakes can literally happen at just about any depth.
Yeah.
And you get different styles of earthquakes, different wave propagation. You get some of the massive ones like you see in Japan that cause tsunamis due to displacement. Intercontinental earthquakes like this one, it could have been an old fault line that reactivated a little bit from hundreds of millions of years ago. Could have been due to oil production, just, taking fluids out, not putting enough back in, so the pore space contracts, and finally you get a snap contraction. All kinds of different possibilities.
I'm just reading chat here, guys. Go ahead and keep talking. I'm just looking for any questions that might be here.
Yeah, but fault lines make interesting modeling. If you're doing mountains like in the east or in the west, modeling a fault line in your scenery is always kind of cool. If you've got something on one side that has different layers of strata or different rock types, then you can have that offset at an angle, and then completely different rock on the other side, and that's perfectly legitimate because you see that in nature. It's all pretty fun to model.
So that's a fault line.
Yeah. So that's where displacement would have occurred. So even in the Northeast, up around New York and stuff, you can see fault lines. So, a fault line, you can kind of think of it as a plane, like take a piece of paper and have another piece of paper and you slide it. The area where it slides is the fault line. Where an earthquake happens might be sort of a discrete point on a fault line. And it's generally not a single point. It's an area where it finally friction, the amount of stress overcomes whatever friction is holding it together, and you get a displacement. Can be pushed up, can be down, can be sideways, can be a combination, but it creates some very unique topography. And that's where some of the most photogenic railroad pictures come from. That, we see trains going through the mountains and different things. The trains are cool, but if you look at the mountains, you can see the geology and you can see where there might have been folds, where there's been faults. That just adds interest as you're doing your scenery.
Yeah. Sitting here in Oklahoma, my guess is it's one of the sideways movers, just because of the topography here. It's, Oklahoma's pretty flat. Eastern Oklahoma's got some hills starting to get into the Ozarks, but the rest of the state is pretty flat. Even when you get out higher in the west, there's not a lot of stuff sticking up.
Yeah, you get under that superficial layer that you're talking about for what you see on the topography, and you go deeper. You're talking the Ozarks. That, in all likelihood, was a continuation of the Appalachian Mountains. Long time ago, Appalachians come down. They sort of came across sideways, kind of doing an east to west, and then sort of down through Texas. So in the subsurface, you've got metamorphic rocks. You've got a variety of rocks that come up from drilling that indicate that, long ago, those were mountains.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you can really see it in the Ozarks as you go over. They've got 412. They cut 412 highway in through toward Bentonville, north of going over toward Fayetteville. and you can see all the topography in the where the cut is, and you can see the folds and the fault lines and stuff. So you can see all that right there, really easy, right there on the side of the road.
Yeah.
You can make really good looking feature with that on the model if you wanted to.
And it's fun when you think about mountain building in nature and what we model. It's like, we look at the Appalachian Mountains and we look at the Valley and Ridge provinces and we think, hey, wow, massive, there's mountains here. And then you kind of get to where I'm at. You get into sort of the coastal plain area of like Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and you don't see much. But, when this was an active mountain range, it would have been similar to the Himalayas. And where I live probably was actually mountain-wise very, very, very much higher than where the Blue Ridge Mountains are, because those were the sides, the flanks of what were huge mountain ranges that ran up and down the east coast of North America long ago, and probably the highest mountains are now where the ocean is, just erosion over millions of years washed it all away and flattened it out. So again, it's what you see in the subsurface kind of gives you an idea of what used to be on the surface. It's just cool. It's fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it like I say, it makes for some interesting rock formations, especially out west. You can really see it in a lot of places. In fact, we had gone out to ride the narrow gauge trains, and we went out on a 40 up through Flagstaff and then north to Chama. I had never been on that road before, but it had some very interesting rock formations in the mountains going up. Lots of different colors, but you could really see where the layers had either folded up or displaced in some form across there. And we saw quite a bit of it when we went out west to see Steve too. In fact, it was so interesting in a lot of places that the wife even commented on it, and that's not the kind of stuff she looks at most of the time. So, but it's hard to miss when you get out there, and there's nothing else out there but those mountains, side of this mountain that shows you all that stuff right there. So
it's cool looking. I just never knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And Bernard said you're a pebble pimp. Thought that was interesting. Never heard that term before. I'm sure he made that up.
I haven't heard of pebble pimp, but it kind of, I'm kind of chuckling because where I'm sitting, layouts behind me. I've got storage shelves over here. Down on the floor, just in front of me, a couple of feet, I've got several totes loaded with rocks that I've collected over the years. Rocks and fossils. So I guess that's appropriate.
Real rocks?
Well, like Roy says, Echo Canyon in Utah is like that with the bluffs on one side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like real rocks.
Real rocks.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got collections from when I was, a geology student and even from years before that. So I've got rocks from volcanoes. I've got fossils that are maybe worth a little bit that I found over the years. I've got different specimens of minerals and, all kinds of fun stuff that weigh a crap load, and I really don't ever want to move them again.
What will you do with them?
Once every 2 years, I open the lid, look at them, and have good memories, and then close the lid and slide it back.
Like a photo album.
It is a natural photo album.
Yeah, Roy says Ardmore, which is south of Oklahoma City, about halfway between Oklahoma City and Texas line, has some big hills. Yeah, big hills for Oklahoma, but they're not. That's all they are is hills. There's no real big mountains here in Oklahoma for sure. Darn it all, because I like the mountains, but that's all they are here is hills.
Yeah, so for everybody that's out there modeling, if you're doing any sort of even small cuts for where your trains go through, depending upon where your layouts are, imagined. If you're in the Midwest, most of the time it's flat. But even in the Midwest, you can get where there's old coral reefs or what's called biomounds that used to be on the ocean floor. And you can be going along and watching a road cut and the rocks are flat. And then all of a sudden you've got it where they do an up and over. And it's because it's an old coral reef or a mound that the sediment settled on. So you can even model, not straight strata in a layout that's, set in the middle of Iowa or Illinois or Wisconsin. Well, no, Wisconsin's actually got more interesting geology. But, when you're modeling an area, go out, take some pictures, and you can recreate what you see. You get closer to the Appalachians, closer to the, the Western mountain ranges, you're going to start to see rocks that are starting to go at angles. Just a little variation in what you model can really set off, visually your scenery.
Oh, we lost you. You still there, Bill?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Well,
it sounded like your video just stopped.
Oh.
Yeah,
I'm reading it. I'm trying to read chat here to see what we got going. Alice keeps putting up she's putting up a link, but I can't get on there to.
Yeah, you can't click on that link. You can't click on it in StreamYards.
Yeah, I can't get in there and copy that, Allie. Otherwise, I'd do that. Mark's doing the Wind River Canyon, and it shows lots of evidence of that kind of seismic activity
I
too.
Wind River Canyon. Wind River Canyon is so cool to drive through. It's almost like it freaks you out just the way the rocks are, the way the road is, and how you drive through some of those mountain passes. I like the Wind River Canyon.
Yeah.
Where's that at?
Wyoming.
It's up in central Wyoming. When we came out of Billings, going over to Rapid City, and we came in north. Well, we came through the Badlands out of Billings, and I think it was when we went through there. Can't remember now. Somebody correct me. The Badlands are probably just outside of Rapid City. Anyway, it's one of the two. But we got to see that kind of formation, which is completely different.
You're right back.
Cause of that landscape, and then we drive right into the north end of Devil's Tower, which I had never seen from that angle. But Devil's Tower actually curves, but the picture you always see is from the front where it's straight, but the curve, you can actually see where it was a volcanic extrusion that came up, and whether that was in a mountain at that time or not, who knows. But now it's just the volcanic rock that's standing there, and it's kind of cool to see.
It is.
And there's not a lot around there. I mean, there's some uplifted hills and stuff, but the Black Hills are still quite a bit east of there. Where Devil's Tower is, there's not a lot there. I mean, it's pretty flat.
Yeah, not anymore. Devil's Tower cooled deep underground, actually. That's why it's got that columnar joining, that really cool, hexagonal look to it on cooling joints. So it just shows that, hundreds, if not thousands of feet of earth above all eroded away in the millions of years that tower has been there.
Yeah.
And it's just gradually exposed it because it's mafic rock, which is a dense rock compared to sedimentary rocks that were around it. And sedimentary rocks, washed away with rains, floods, rivers, whatever, that had crossed that landscape for eons and left that, volcanic feature sitting there as a marker to the west. Yeah.
It's neat to drive across the country. Of course, the country is beautiful. I mean, there's so many different aspects to this country. But you get out west, and the topography changes so much from one area to the next, and to me it's fascinating to see. Like I say, it's beautiful in its own right. Even the desert can be just gorgeous in its own right. Now, not to say you may want to live there or may not want to live there, but it still can be very beautiful there.
Yeah.
Even without any trees or anything. Okay, what else are we looking at here? Let's see, compared to dead flat. Okay. See what everybody's talking about. Bernard's talking about he'd spent half his life dealing with gynecologist.
What?
I think you meant geologist, drilling oil wells and then mining.
Gynecologists do kind of drill.
Oh, there's lots of jokes there, but I'm not going there.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, sure. Blame it on the text to talk. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty good.
Auto spell check, auto correct can create some interesting sentences.
Okay. And Mike wants to know if there's going to be a test on this, Bill.
Only if he wants.
Uh,
Anybody that ever comes to my house and takes a look at the O scale layout, I can give them a geology quiz. Have them find several geologic features that I have modeled into the rocks.
yeah. Yeah. Steve says, explain the saluta grade.
I guess saluta.
Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah, it's in Saluda, I think North Carolina, South Carolina, something like that.
So, where is that at, Steve?
I know nothing about that.
Is that the ramp up to the east side of the Rockies?
No, it's in the Carolinas.
Saluda?
Saluda.
There's Sateriale in Carolinas, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure where he's talking.
Saluda grade. It's a really famous railroad grade.
Yeah, I'd have to look it
I
up.
think it's like 6% or something.
I'd have to look it up because I have no clue.
Oh yeah, is that the one where they had to put in cable lift? I don't know if that's the one I'm thinking of. Anyway,
I'll look it up after the show's done.
Yeah, Dave Todd says Wind River Canyon was his favorite part of the run from Gray Bull to Casper. I've never been there, but I can imagine what it's like having been kind of around there, because I've been up to Yellowstone and been to the northeast corner now of Wyoming. And yeah, geology is just really cool all the way through this country. It just changes from one to the other.
It is. Anybody that does get into Wyoming and you got time, yeah, you do have to drive through the Wind River Canyon. It's an experience.
Okay, what else we got here?
Yeah, North Carolina.
I lived in North Carolina for a while. I'll have to look it up. It just is not.
It's pretty interesting.
I know the west part of North Carolina, you're getting into the Appalachians. I lived in Hickory for a while, and it was not a long drive before you're climbing and you're getting up into some fairly high peaks for the Appalachian Mountains. And then you go like down to Charlotte, and then you head towards the ocean, and it's flat.
Oh yeah. First time I was ever in North Carolina, we came up through Gatlinburg and went through the Smokies, and then came down into Asheville.
Yeah.
Which was, I remember that we camped just outside of Asheville, and that was beautiful. But yeah, then as you move a little bit to the east, it just gets really flat from there on out, and all you see is buildings.
Doesn't take long to go from the higher elevations of the Appalachians into foothills, and then you get into the coastal plains. It's like Hickory, very similar to where I live in the north end of Richmond. I go just a little ways west, and I get into the rolling hills before you start to see the Appalachians. And it was the same in Hickory, in the rolling hills, and in the fall when the trees were just right, I could actually see, very high mountains in the Appalachians, way, way, way off in the distance.
Well, it's like West Virginia. West Virginia is gorgeous.
Oh, I love West Virginia. Love driving through it.
Yeah. West Virginia's pretty. It was funny. We took the kids up to Chicago one summer, and that's the first time I'd been in Illinois. And we went up, of course, 44 here out of Tulsa to St. Louis, and then straight up to Chicago. And the only time the road deviated in elevation was to go over a railroad grade. And then it was right back down on that flat plain. And I mean, there was it was after they had, I don't know if it was after they had harvested or just before they planted, but there was nothing out there growing. And I mean, just for miles and miles and miles. Iowa's kind of like that, but Iowa's got a little bit more up and down than Illinois. Illinois is really, really flat.
Yeah, Illinois is super flat. There's parts in Iowa that are like that. I live northeast part of the state, and in certain spots you get on a little bit of a higher ground. It was not rolling hills. It was very gentle rolling hills. But if you're on a high point, you could look around and I could see like a grain elevator in the city that's 8 miles away, and I could see it. I could actually make it out on the horizon. Yeah.
Yeah, Oklahoma's like that. I mean, if you drive from Tulsa, which is going across the northern part of the state toward the Panhandle, it's, you're gradually climbing, but there's not a lot of up and down. You'll get a little bit of rolling up and down, but it's very gentle, all full of farms. And
yeah, it's kind of like New Jersey. The southern part of New Jersey is the same.
It's very rural.
Yeah. Once you get up in the northern part, like first time I ever went up to like northwestern part of New Jersey, man, I couldn't believe all the mountains up there, like close to New York.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I never knew that there were all these mountains up here.
That's what I mean. You got to get out and explore this country because it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I've never been west of Pittsburgh, so I don't.
Oh, dude, you got to get out, man.
Yeah, I know.
You got to get out. There's a lot of country you haven't seen.
There's a ton of country that I haven't seen.
Yeah, you get out west of here, not even the Mississippi, but west of where I am.
Right.
Until you get to the coast, there's not a lot of population in there.
Right.
You can find population maps of the United States and the western half of the United States. Now, geographically, I'm not talking about what they call the western states. I'm saying if you cut it in quarters, the west, northwest, and the southwest, until you get to the coast, there's not a lot of people there. It's very, very open, but it's beautiful. I mean, it's just really beautiful places.
Yeah.
Roy drove through Echo Canyon, and I've seen people model Echo Canyon, and I've seen a couple videos stationary, but not driving through Echo Canyon and seeing just the beauty of all the rocks and
what's bad about it, you go to model that on your layout and you can't do it justice because it is so vast, and then you're saying, okay, well, I got to compress it down. And once you put it on your layout, then it looks like an anthill.
It just looks like a mountain.
It doesn't, there's nothing there because you can't, there's no way you can make that much of it unless you have a barn or something to model in. But yeah, this country is gorgeous, but the West is so vast. We got up into Montana. And I turned to my wife, we're halfway between Glacier and Billings. And I told her, I said, now I know why they call this big sky country, because that's all you see is the sky.
Yeah.
There is nothing out there. I mean, it's
impressive.
It's completely wide open. Beautiful country.
Yeah. Michael McCarville, I see, says 150 miles between gas stations in Nevada. Yeah, so you got to plan your gas stops, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, we saw a lot of gas stations that weren't actually gas stations. It was a gas pump on the side of the road. We drove right by them, didn't even know what it was there.
So what are they for?
Pump, and I guess they got a credit card reader there or something, some way to charge you. But there's no station there. It's just a gas pump out in the middle of nowhere. And
is it for anybody to use?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, we didn't stop there. I always made sure anytime we were in a populated area on that trip, we stopped and filled up. There was lots of times we were only 3/4.
Where did you see those at?
I didn't know when the next one was going to be.
Where did you see them at?
Montana, Wyoming.
Montana?
They were out in rural areas.
Wow. I would just drive by it too, thinking, what is that?
Well, saw one in Nebraska, in the middle of Nebraska, and in amongst all the cornfields. Yeah, and my guess is it's there because you've got all the farmers with the combines and stuff that may have to get gas. But but there's nobody out there. There's no town or anything, so there's no reason to have a gas station because somebody would have to drive there to man it.
Yeah.
And they're just out in the middle. Roy probably knows about them.
Yeah, I'm sure he
Roy's
does.
probably seen them, I'm sure. Okay. What's this? Oh. Yes, Mike. I thought that was Roy. Yeah, Roy, tell me if you've ever seen one of those gas pumps that sit on the side of the road by themselves, with no. Oh, hang on a second. I got a.
Okay, while you're typing, Jerry, I know a place that you should go that's not horribly far. You need to go to central Wisconsin, like late summer. You will absolutely flip. Beautiful scenery, incredible geology, lots of cool tourist stuff, and lots of good cheese to eat.
Really?
Yeah.
And
cheese curds aren't as nasty as they sound.
If it's still there, and I haven't looked, there's a place called House on the Rock. It's in Wisconsin. That is an unbelievable place to go visit for like a day. Like I said, I've been there, but it was like more than 30 years ago. And a beautiful house way up high, and you'd have like a walkway where you could walk out over the valley and look down. But then the hill that it was on was essentially hollowed out with like man-made caves, and it's sort of a museum inside the mountain with all kinds of cool stuff that you can go and walk through, see all kinds of different old things, including like a full working carousel in the middle of this giant hill, and it's all wooded and surrounded by woods and streams. If it's still there, it's an incredible place to go visit if it's still open to the public.
Yeah, there was a place on the road from Moab over to Durango. I don't remember what the name of the highway is, but it was called Hole in the Wall. And it was a vertical rock face. And the store, I guess they hollowed it out. We didn't stop there, but what it looked like is I don't know if it was a natural cave or if somebody had come in and dug it out. Maybe the Indians had one time had dug that out. But they had built a storefront over the front of it. And it was called Hole in the Wall. And of course, had a big sign out there like the old tourist signs were, used to be. And I thought that was pretty interesting, and thinking that probably an old cave or something that they put this store in. So it survived the winter and the summer inside there because the temperature doesn't change that much inside something like that.
Container Man did a post on Facebook. Most people only travel to 8 or 9 states in their lives. Some people never leave the state that they were born in. And there was a checklist, and I've been through 9 states. How many states have some of you been through?
I've been through most of them now. There's not very many. I'd have to stop and think. And this is what Roy's talking about. It was what I was talking about, what Roy put up there. Yeah, credit card.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like anybody can use them.
Well, my guess is, if you got a credit card, you could.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I assumed when we saw them, but I never did stop at one because we never needed gas when I went by one.
Steve 87 been through 50. Wow.
Yeah. Let's see. I've been to Maine now. Been to Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Haven't been to Rhode Island. Been to all the other New Englands, New York, and
Dennis. Hi, Dennis.
Been to Ohio. Been to Indiana. Haven't been to Michigan. Haven't been to Wisconsin. North Dakota. I think I've been to everything else. Been to Alaska, been to Hawaii, been to everything in the South. So I think those are the only ones I haven't been to, but I've been blessed to be able to travel the last several years. But anyway. Okay, what else is being said over here?
All right, so now,
He's
yeah,
been in some terrible states when he was younger, and he didn't drink anymore.
good idea.
I can relate to that.
All right, so now I got a question for everybody.
Yeah.
Some of you may know, some of you may not. I'm going to start a HO switching layout. It's going to be about 8 foot, 8.5 foot long by 20 inches wide. Flat mostly, no mountains, nothing like that. I don't think any water. Haven't got that far yet. Traditional bench work. What's I'm thinking about what I should put on the top of it. You know, the sub road bed. Plywood, just plywood, no plywood, foam, rigid foam, thin plywood and foam. What do you guys think?
Are you making it portable?
No.
What? And are you going to use like tortoises or something, or are you going to do all hand throws?
I think there's only going to be maybe like 7 or I don't right now. Hand throws, maybe portable late, maybe some type of switch machines later. I don't know.
I mean, you could do tortoises on the bottom of foam, but you'd have to put a piece of plywood there to screw the screws in, and you'd have to glue that to the foam. So
okay, so there's not enough support for turnouts.
Yeah.
Jack says plywood, no foam.
Yeah, thickness of the foam too, if you're doing turnouts underneath, can kind of come into play. You can get the foam, like the pink foam board that I use, you know, you can get it 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, 1.5, 2. You know, like the build that I'm doing for the other Jerry, you know, I've got like a 2-inch core of foam board on this with, you know, 1x3s for the bench work, and then 1x1, 2s, just to keep it light. But it also, you know, if you do foam, even if you're not doing like mountains or water features, if you do foam, you would be able to do some carving so that you could put like ditches on the side of the track. You know, you could kind of do a V along area.
Yeah.
You could kind of carve it out so that you've got like a culvert, maybe, you know, going under the track in a couple of, you know, in a spot or two.
So maybe I'll do. So like John Tanzilla said, why don't I use the same thing I did for Heath? I could. I mean, material is not a problem for me. You know, I have plenty of material in my shop in different thicknesses. I just was looking at something to be light. I don't want it to be heavy, and so I guess I could do it out of 1/2 inch material and then put some foam on top, so I could carve some ditches if I wanted to, like you're saying. So.
Well, even if you use plywood, you can still, if you only put the plywood where your track is and have it, you know, pretty close to there, then you can always go below that with a ditch or something if you want to. Even if you're not using foam. There's so many different ways to do it. Really what you with.
Yeah, like I've never did that cookie cutter thing. I don't.
It's easy to do, but there's a lot of waste involved a lot of times with that.
Right.
Of the plywood, which I personally hate wasting material. Because I know how expensive it can be, first of all. But I like to use everything I can. In fact, I'll take you guys up there if we got time. I'll take you up and show you some that I've gotten done since the last time you've seen it. Where I've actually got homosote that's spanning from the bridge over to my upper level. Well, the upper level's plywood and cork, but that piece in between is going to be a piece of homosote that I had, and it's nice and light for what I was going to use, and I didn't have to buy more plywood to cut and put there because it's a curved section. So
so everybody, I'm getting some good feedback, so I'm reading.
Plywood and cork, like sheet cork, if you're doing a big yard kind of thing, that's a perfect way to go, because you don't want the inclines that you get on the main line. If you want it to be fairly flat. And foam works just as well, from what I understand. I've not done any foam that I put track on, so I can't speak to that. But
so when I did my N scale layout, I just did foam, and put my track on top of that.
Yeah, and that's
Well, I put road bed down and then put track on that. So
yeah. If you were going to do turnout motors, I would use plywood.
yeah, and right now I'm not, but maybe later I might change it.
And 1/2-inch ply is plenty thick enough. I wouldn't go to 3/4. I see guys use 3/4 all the time, and it's like, that's way overkill. You don't have that kind of weight on it.
No.
Use 1/2-inch and just make sure it's supported, so you don't get any bows and stuff in it, and it'll be fine because your trains just don't weigh that much.
No, and I'm not going to stand.
Yeah, the heaviest thing you're going to put on it is plaster if you build a mountain or something, and even most of that, if you do it right, you're not going to have a lot of weight there.
Right, and actually, it's going to help support the road bed in the areas between the supports.
Yeah,
it'll all be attached. It'll all be a solid unit. Yeah,
but sheet cork is a great way of going for a yard because it's uniform, and I use contact cement to put it down with. You could use glue. You could use wood glue to put cork down. Spread it out pretty thin, and then just roll it out on there and weight it down so it's flat.
Yeah, don't worry, Jack. I'm not a fan of particle board or any of that stuff.
Don't
be using particle board.
I don't even look at particle board anymore.
Yeah.
Since they came out with that MDF pretty readily, I would go MDF way before I'd ever go particle board.
Yeah.
But for doing sub road bed, I wouldn't even use MDF. I'd use plywood or foam, depending on what I was doing. But,
so what do you guys like to use Homosote and tortoises? Homosote and tortoises. What do they do? Put a piece of plywood under where they're going to mount the tortoises?
You can. I've run them straight into the screw straight into the Homosote. It'll hold screws.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, Homosote's it's very, very dense.
Yeah.
Paper is basically what it is. So very fine wood product that's pressed together, and it's very dense, and it'll hold a screw pretty well. Now, if you were under there pulling on it and stuff, yeah, you're going to have a problem with it. But just the motor moving the points back, it'll hold it. It's fine. Yeah. I've got it on my staging area. That's what I used in my staging area, and that's all I put under there. I didn't put anything, no plywood up to put it against.
Right.
But if I was doing foam, I would. But then I worry about how well is that plywood going to stay against that foam, glued against that foam. You got to use something that
you got to use something good that's not going to move.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I'm going to flip this around on my right quick. And
what have you been up to, Bill?
Oh, working on the other Jerry's layout. So
yeah, how's Jerry's layout coming?
It's coming. I'm getting to the point now where he's starting to make the control panel. He dropped off his transformer and handheld throttle the other day. So hopefully tomorrow I can start to build his panel. It's going to be on one of the sides, a straight down panel, which I'll hinge it. I got like racing stripe tape that I'll use to kind of lay out the lines on the panel. He brought over a bunch of little micro switches so that I can toggle it.
So is he going to be DC?
He's going to be straight DC.
Okay.
So what he bought, what he's got is a couple of DC engines.
Cool. Yeah.
And he got this pack.
Oh, yeah.
Which is it's a good, powerful pack, but it also has the ability to have, a handheld throttle that's designed.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't know they had something like that.
Yeah, I was looking on eBay because I've got an old power pack, or I had an old power pack that had a little handheld throttle for DC, but I think I got rid of it. So I was showing him because he wants to have a handheld throttle, and it's tethered. It's got a little kit.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
So on his layout, I will be able to plug it in on either side of the layout, on the long end. So have a panel on one side. I'll put the port where he can plug in the handheld there. The power pack I have mounted under the layout behind the panel. So everything's hidden. And then I'll run another line to the other side of the layout and have another little jack that he'll be able to plug into there.
Yeah.
Or so he can kind of walk around his layout wants to switch one side, and then he can walk to the other and have some fun there.
So, Jerry is pretty much the poster child for you're never too old to get into the hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like a lot of us. He's been interested in model railroading for years.
Right.
He's had layouts. He and his wife came over last weekend. We were talking and dropping some stuff off, and she was having some fun looking at the layouts. And here, she's excited because I'm going to teach her and Jerry and I think some of their family friends and daughter, I think, if I remember right, how to build scratch-built trees so they can put trees on his layout. He's busy doing building construction. So it's a family deal for them, which is really cool.
Right.
And I'm
that's even cooler.
Get it to a point where he can have some fun with what his vision is.
That's even cooler because most people know, right, that their spouses and kids, and they're not even interested in what you're doing railroad wise.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool that they will get involved in it. I guess because they see how important it is for him.
Yeah.
And they want to be part of it because he's 80s. He could live to be 100, but you just never know at that point how much time you have with somebody.
Yeah. And it's he's able to see his vision come to life.
Yeah.
I'm doing the parts that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, he would have been easily able to have done them.
Right.
Just now, my time and effort is I can get it to the point where he can do what he's able to do and enjoys doing. And he's going to be having some fun running trains on his layout here, within another month or so, easily.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's really pretty awesome. And it's nice that you did it, helped them out.
Yeah. Real quick, I'll just slide my camera before I see Claude's getting set up. But let's see if we can show, I've got all of his track is all glued in place using that power grab. I've got all the feeders are all dropped. Everything's isolated. So all the area here, all this stuff here will be used to make his control panel. But, the layout's progressing. So it's what he's after, and it's working pretty good. So I'm having fun doing it.
Yeah, I bet. I don't know if Claude's having difficulties over there.
You lost your video, Claude. Ooh. I think he's
trying to do something, maybe show something. We don't see any video, Claude.
Yeah, you're trying to go full screen. We don't see it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I forgot to do it full screen. So I thought while you were talking, I'd run down and do it right quick.
Okay.
Anyway, here's
There
the
we go.
backdrop I've got up.
That looks good.
I like it.
This is actually of Lizard Head Pass. They're in Colorado. And here you can see, Jerry, how I do it. Now, this is actually OSB.
Yeah.
Which OSB works just as well. And then, and then the sheet cork on top of that.
Right.
This is temporary. This will be replaced with a 1-inch angle iron.
Okay. Oh, that's going to be the one that's suspended.
Yeah, and then I'll run an all thread from here and one over on that end, and that'll be strong enough to hold that up.
Okay.
Okay, so, and you have to bear with me here. I got my topside creeper in here to work. Okay, up here, you can see where I came from the bridge over here. And this gray is all Homosote. But you can see how dense, how tightly packed that is. And so I've got one hole drilled right here for this turnout, for the tortoise to go underneath there. And I'm about ready to get this tied back in right here. And then I'll have my son help me put that last section up over here. And I'll be on my way to starting to scenic all this.
How high is that part of your layout?
Not as high as a lot of people do them. It's perfect for me standing in here, but I'm 6'2".
Okay.
I don't know right offhand how high this is. Let me look here right quick.
No, it's no big deal. It's probably 65 inches. Or...
It is. It'll be about 60.5 inches to the
Okay.
roadbed
No, that's not too
at this
bad.
point here.
Nice viewing
Right.
height.
Yeah. See, and then this is quite a bit lower, but I've got a stool here. When I'm doing the lower deck, I'll be sitting on that. So then I get a good eye level view of it.
Gotcha.
And of course, it needs to be lit under there and everything else. But
Yeah.
there will be a scene break right here where the two backdrops break. I'll have a short tunnel in here, plaster tunnel again, to put that in. But anyway, that's where I've gotten. It's taken me quite a while. There's been a lot of stuff going on, but it's starting to get to the point where I can see getting this actually scenic up here. And anyway,
it's good that you put the backdrop up now.
Oh yeah. I put that up before I got the joists in. I got them put up and then put the backdrop up.
Yeah, that's one thing I've learned that talking to other people and seeing stuff that put the backdrop up first.
Oh yes. Yeah. Find out where you want it, get it put in place. I started to build this upper deck first, and I thought there's just no way I'm going to get underneath here to do all this work if I do that. So
yeah,
I did the opposite direction. Now I'm having to go over the top and do it. That's why I had to have the topside creeper. And it's a little bulky in my space because I don't have a lot of room, but it works pretty well. So anyway, that's
good.
That's where that's sitting.
Yeah, it looks good, Claude.
And we should be close to the end of the show.
Yeah, 50. Yeah, I got like 3 minutes.
Yeah,
good job.
Right there.
Good
Well,
job.
anyway, I don't know if anybody had any questions on any of that, but let me swing this back around.
I didn't see any. They're talking about something. I don't know. What
There's no telling what they're talking about.
Looks like they're talking about 3D printing something. I don't know.
3D print the mountains. There you go.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know,
cool.
that was kind of a cool thing, and I wonder if somebody's done that. I've never really looked at it. Not necessarily mountains, but like, you know, you get the molds and you can make your plaster rock formations. I wonder if anybody's 3D printed rock formations.
I don't know.
But the only drawback I could see with it is like they'd be hard to like change, like carve into if you wanted to, or
yeah. You know, a lot of guys will buy the Woodland Scenics. You can get the plaster already cast rocks that you can just put into place.
Right. Yeah.
Done it 3D printing.
Well, see, I bought Woodland Scenics rubber molds.
Right. A lot of people do that, right? Yeah.
Say again?
A lot of people do that, but I kind of like your way of doing it, Bill, because it's just.
Yeah, it's free form.
It's free form. None of them all look alike.
And it depends on what.
I had a bunch of the Woodland Scenics molds. I think I had like 9 or 10 of them, and I ended up giving those away years ago in a contest, just because I used them, and it's like, I can do more. And you know, when I slap the plaster on and I carve it,
right? You can do it.
Well, and it depends on what you're modeling, because I was modeling the Western United States and the Rockies. Most of the mountains that you see up there are big pieces of granite.
Yeah.
And so you want that look that you get from the Woodland Scenics. And of course, I had enough of them and enough of the small ones, and I'd take some of them and break them in half.
Right.
Shave the side off and put them somewhere. So you just use your imagination a little bit on that kind of thing. There's a couple of, in fact, I don't know if anybody's ever noticed on the two bridges on the front of the mountain, there's 2 of those rock molds that actually are outcroppings that the track comes out on before it goes over the bridge on both levels. It's the same mold, but I broke a couple of pieces off of one of them so they don't look the same.
Right.
They worked really well for that location. There's all kinds of ways of doing it. People use crumpled up aluminum foil,
Right.
you know, and then pour plaster in that. Do it that way too.
I've done that.
The shaper sheets. I don't know if you guys mess with.
Well, that's what that's all shaper sheet is aluminum foil.
Yeah.
Basically. But well, that's our hour, guys.
We made it. Yeah. Thanks everybody.
Well, hopefully everybody's back next week.
Yeah.
And we will.
Dennis, hope you feel better. Tammy, our condolences to you.
Yes,
Tammy lost her
if she gets better.
Yeah.
And everybody, thanks for being here. And Bill. And
see you, everybody.
Thanks for being here. And we will see you guys next week with something.
Thank you.
With something. Bye.
See you, everybody.